Joining me right now on the Hadid Mercer Rug Cleaning Hotline is my guy Rio Robinson. What's going on, Rio?
What's going on, man? How you doing on this Misery Monday, my guy?
Hey, man, I'm hanging in there. It's frustrating because the Commanders played well enough to win that game defensively. Offensively, they just could not score enough points, and then that back-breaking interception in the fourth quarter. Are you putting the loss? Are you blaming Taylor Heineke for it?
Taylor is definitely 1A on the list. I got three people, 1A, 1B, and 1C,
right.
And it is Taylor Heineke, Scott Turner, and Ron Rivera. Just put them all in a pot, throw them together, and make soup with them. That's why we lost the game yesterday.
Rio, would you go back to Carson Wentz in about 14 days?
No, I would not. I would actually see what we got in this fifth rounder that we took with the 144th overall pick. I honestly have seen enough from Carson and Taylor Heineke. We know who they both are. They're both about 30 years old. One is a cook, fledgling starter in the league, and one is a middle-of-the-pack backup who fans view as a yellow jacket player because he plays with heart and personality. We know who both of them are. We need to see what we have in the unknown on the roster. I don't want to see either of them, to be honest.
So you're telling me instead of trying to make the playoffs, you want to figure out the future?
I want to figure out the future, but he may be the best chance we have to win on the roster because we've seen exactly who Taylor and Carson are, and neither of them play winning football.
Joined by Rio Robinson on the Hadid Mercer Rug Cleaning Hotline. You can follow Rio on social media at Rio_Robinson91. What do you think's the biggest issue with the offense? Is it play calling? A lot of people blame Scott Turner. Is it the offensive line? Maybe we don't have enough time for these long developing routes to develop. Or maybe it's the quarterback play. What's the biggest reason you think we aren't scoring enough points?
I think the easy and lazy answer to the question would be the offensive line, but it's a combination, 50-50 between the play calling of Scott Turner and the quarterback play. The lack of execution, the lack of arm. The interception was a backbreaker, but the throws that Taylor missed, some big ones, those were just as big as the interception that he threw late in the game. But the play calling makes no sense. That 4th and 1 call where we run a play-action boot pass on 4th and 1 like we don't have two 230-pound running backs, that was very head-scratching, but totally Scott Turner and totally Washington of us. But it's definitely a combination of the play calling and quarterback execution. And for Taylor Heineke to have been with Scott Turner in Minnesota, Carolina, and Washington and know this offense fluently, they sure put the training wheels on this guy and treat him as if he's a rookie, like he's not about to be 30 years old in a couple months.
Yeah, no, they just simply don't trust him. And so it's like, well, why are you going to throw him out there every week if you don't trust him? And then It's not like you're running the ball 30 times a game. It's a ton of play action. Time management, though. I mean, that is Ron Rivera's biggest flaw. He keeps making mistakes. We're 4-5 on the season. I think you could easily point out double-digit, 10 coaching, time management faux pas from Ron Rivera.
Oh, yeah. I literally tweeted yesterday, there needs to be a coach hired here, specifically who takes the red challenge flag away from Ron and who calls timeouts for him, because to be a 12-year head coach in the NFL, I think he has more time management gaps than every coach in the league, and I don't think that's exaggeration. And I watch a lot of games league-wide. I see inexperienced coaches who don't go through what we go through every year here with Ron. The guy doesn't know when to challenge. He tries to take his timeouts home with him, or he burns them too early. It just feels so Bush League at times, and I don't understand where the thinking comes from. There's a whole booth upstairs of people who are supposed to be helping the guy, and it doesn't seem like they're ever on the same page.
That's the most frustrating thing to me. I mean, it's so obvious he doesn't play Madden. It's like he's never been in these situations before. And then his favorite excuse now is, no, we have an analytics guy, and he told me to do this. Well, fire the analytics guy and hire some other idiot because they've made mistakes in 3 of the last 3 games. It's so frustrating. Rio, what do you make of this season so far? I mean, we're 4-5. You're in the playoff hunt because the NFC is so bad. I mean, it is so bad. I was watching the NFL yesterday, and almost every single AFC versus NFC matchup, the AFC came out on top. And because of that, Washington's going to find themselves in the playoff hunt. Rivera always turns seasons around, but personally, I'm tired of having him have bad starts to seasons.
And honestly, does he really turn seasons around? Like, we talk about this in our group chat. Washington goes on a Mickey Mouse fairy tale winning streak every year.
Yeah.
That winning streak never really equates to much of anything because we haven't won over 7 games with Ron, and it looks like we're going to get right around that 7-game mark again. You look at Ron's career, 12 years. Only three times in 12 years has he won more than 7 games. This is who he is as a coach. He is a 7-win coach. It is his peak. It is who he is. It is his identity. But at this point, I want to see the rookie play football. I know people want to talk playoffs because the NFC is garbage, and this would be a season where we could probably moonwalk into that 7th and final wild card spot and join the rest of our division. But let's not lose sight of what the season's really about at this point. Dan is finally selling the team. That is the win. That is the playoff berth and Super Bowl championship that we all deserve as a fan base, and that is what we should be focusing on.
No, I totally agree, man. I said on my Saturday show, which you can hear me on WJFK 106.7 The Fan, Saturdays 9 to noon, and I said I would be okay with losing every game this season as long as it meant that finally Dan Snyder was going to sell the franchise. Joined by Commanders superfan Rio Robinson. Follow him on social media, Rio_Robinson91. Were you at FedEx Field? What was that atmosphere like? Because I'm wondering, I was thinking that, hey, maybe more fans would show up knowing that this could be the end of Dan Snyder.
Oh, it was live. It was great. I had a great time yesterday. I was out there from probably about 9:45 to about 5:30. One of my boys, my guy Jalen Morgan, shout out to him. He's hosted a Bleeding B&G podcast. He kicked the field goal at a game last year and won us a suite experience for 20. So we watched it from a suite yesterday. It was an amazing experience seeing it. We had a perfect all 22 end zone view of the whole field. There was a lot of Vikings fans there, but that's the case every week at FedEx Field. There's always going to be a large split. Usually, the opposing side is going to outdo us. But it was packed. It was loud. It was electric. And when we had that 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, it felt amazing, and it felt as good as any time I've been there in the last couple years.
Yeah, I'm sure there were quite a few Commanders fans who were saying, you like that at Minnesota Vikings fans. Well, them and Kirk Cousins got the last laugh. But let's end on a positive note. Who would you say was the player of the game for Washington?
Player of the game for Washington. I know Curtis Samuel caught that nice touchdown, but I'm going to give it to Jamin Davis. Jamin Davis is ascending before our eyes, and he is growing more and more every week. And I'm not just saying that because PFF ranked him as our highest-rated player yesterday. He was all over the field. I would definitely give it to him or Benjamin St-Juste. But Benjamin St-Juste got burnt on a slot fade by Justin Jefferson at the end of the game, so that's the reason why I would lean toward Jamin. But I can't give it to anyone on the offensive side of the ball, so I'm going with Mr. Jamin Davis, who is finally starting to show us why we took him in the first round at pick 19 last year.
Yeah, he was great to watch. Maybe I could give it to Jonathan Allen or Deron Payne as well. The defensive line and Jamin Davis all played well enough to win that game. Rio, thanks so much for the time, man. Where can people check out your work?
Rio Robinson on YouTube. Show's called Rambling with Rio. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Rio_Robinson91. Rambling from a raw, unfiltered perspective and all passion and love for the Washington Commanders.
Love it, man. Thanks for chiming in today.
I appreciate you, man. Have a good one.
Yep, you're listening to Awadd Radio. Phone lines are open if you want to chime in on the Commanders' loss to the Vikings.